Welcome to Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority, the lively and engaging podcast for business professionals who've always believed they have a book in them. I'm your host, Jillian Whitney. Join me as I chat with authors and industry experts from all around the world to explore simple strategies to write, publish, and leverage your business book. Whether you're an entrepreneur, executive, or an employee, this podcast is for you. Today, we're diving into the vault for a special conversation about the power of storytelling. Back on August 24th, 2021, I was joined by Craig Allan, also known as the Black Knight. Craig is a business coach, LinkedIn strategist, and master storyteller. Craig enjoys sharing captivated video stories on LinkedIn and always ends with a powerful business lesson. Whether you're in the process of writing your manuscript or you're marketing your published book, the storytelling secrets we uncover today will transform how you connect with your audience. So grab a cup of coffee and let's get stuck in. And we're live once again on another Tuesday. And I have a special friend in the house, our own LinkedIn storyteller. And he's going to share his secrets today. So, welcome, Craig. And first of all, for anybody who doesn't know you, can you just give a quick little rundown of who you are and what you do? And then we'll get stuck in.
Yeah, of course. Well, firstly, thanks for inviting me along. It's always great when we do meet, but this is a bit more special, isn't it?
It is.
And for those that I haven't met before, my name is Craig Allan. I'm the owner of a business called Different Mindset, and I work with IT and technology companies, and I help them to scale and grow.
Good enough. That's great. That's great. So today we're talking about secrets of a storyteller. And I put this in the top of the post. And one of the things that really stuck out for me is when I first met Craig, I attended one of his webinars. And I think it was like just after I had started talking with you and meeting you. It was like well over a year ago. And you gave a webinar and you were telling a story about Shackleton. And I was absolutely mesmerized with your storytelling abilities. And then now you have brought your storytelling secret sauce to LinkedIn. And every Friday, you post a video story, which is just like a wonderful way to do stories, because stories are nice to read, but a story that's on video, you get the facial expressions, you get the story, and yours always have like a takeaway, a lesson, a moral of the story. So first of all, yay, Craig, you're doing such an awesome job. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today, about let's start at the beginning. How did you come up with the idea to make this sort of weekly series?
Well, I think I can firmly put 90% of the blame for that on you. You are the video master, and we've been friends for almost a year and a half now. So I've stolen a lot of my ideas from you. The actual ideas behind the stories themselves come from jokes and stories I told down the years. I come from a long line of comedians and joke tellers in the family, and quite often we'll read a glass of wine or a beer. We'll share jokes, and some of them I can convert into stories, and they're perfectly palatable for LinkedIn. Other not so much. I just simply can't share on these pages. But yeah, they're just stories from my life that have been told to me by family and friends.
Great.
And each and every one of them, I can remember exactly who told me and where I was when I heard it. Some of them going back many years ago. So, but that's the nature of the beast. My brother and I are the same. We both tell stories and jokes. As I think some of them are more palatable than others.
So it definitely runs in the family, and you come from a storytelling, background, which is really great. And I love that they've kind of like part of your, almost like your tapestry of your life, that, you have these stories. So that's the next question then. How do you keep track of your stories? Do you have them, like a little journal? Do you just have bits of paper everywhere? Like, how do you keep organized?
Yeah, I'm sure that there are people watching this that will think back to their own circumstances where you're amongst a group of friends and one of your group of friends just has to say something. It might just be a word or a story or whatever it might be. And it reminds you of a story that you haven't heard for years. You share that and that reminds someone else. And it's almost like a chain reaction. You know, one story tells or reminds someone of another story, and the whole thing just goes on and on and on. So to remember them, you just think of the original story, and of course that then has this knock-on effect. And so what I do now is when I remember one, I send myself an email with just a one-liner, just a punchline, effectively, to remind me what
Wow.
the story is, and then I keep it in a document so that I can go and find it at any given time. And as I say, there's some that I think, oh, that's a funny story, and then I work through it, and then I get to the end of it, and I think, oh, I can't tell this one. Like,
That one I have to save for the pub.
yeah, yes, exactly, yes. So yeah, I think if and then there's lots of people who are part of a family or a group of friends who enjoy telling funny stories, and if you do, then that's how it works. You feed off and bounce off each other, and you just get these great anecdotes and okay, you'll forget them, but then someone will see something further down the line and you'll think, oh, God, I know a joke about that. That's great. And so you remember things the through interacting with other people, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
So it's almost like there's story triggers. It's like one story triggers another and another and another. So that's good. That's good. Let me just we've got some comments. So let me just go and let's say hello to all the people joining us today and then we'll come back and we'll pick up in a second. So we've got yay, we got Rebecca. She said she couldn't make it, but she's here anyways. Yay. So hello, Craig and Jillian. I made it very excited. Ah, we just love her. Common sharesies. We just love her. Hello, Paula. I believe Paula is in Scotland as well, Craig. She's the kilt lady. You got to see her kilts. She's amazing. She's amazing. Okay, we've got Jeff Young in the house. Woohoo! It's the great Scott and the Google Goddess. Nice to see you too. We always love when Jeff pops in. Ah, we have Tina with two eyes.
Yeah.
Hey, that's nice. She's just awesome. Hi, Greg and Jillian. Love the stories. Love the stories. King of stories telling with the queen of video. What a treat. That's nice. And really, yes, the very fact that you are taking these stories and putting them into video, it's almost like you're creating a legacy, So it would be interesting to know what your family thinks. Does your family, like your kids, your wife, your brother, do they see your stories? What are they thinking when they see these videos?
My brother lives next door to me, so he hears my stories, but he doesn't, because I meet with him every week and we have a glass of wine and talk about, stories and tell jokes and whatnot. And that's where I get a lot of my material. So it's important that I keep that up. I put it down to research. Yeah. So I think,
That's a good
yeah.
use that one.
But usually my family use LinkedIn, but not very often. So very few of them will actually see them unless I message them and say, go and look for this one, let me know what you think.
Yeah.
And the only person that sees all of them is Jacqueline, my wife.
Mm.
Because every week on a Friday afternoon, if she's at home, if she's working, then I wait until she comes home. But I get it up on my screen and I say, what do you think of this one? And sometimes she gets, comes to the end and she'll say, oh, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
And which kind of kills the moment. But that's true, that's the nature of the beast. But then on other occasions, she bursts out laughing, and that's when I know that
You've done it.
yeah.
You've done it right.
uh,
You've done it right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, Craig has as many stories as he has hats. And he believes he has a lot of hats. That's funny. That reminds me, there was a favorite story. I don't know if it was I'm thinking it was a Dr. Zeus, but maybe not. And it was Bartholomew and the hats. And it was this guy and he had hats and hats and hats. And I'm gonna have to send you that story because
yeah,
it'll remind me of the guy with all the hats. I don't know.
yeah, I'll go. I've got quite a few.
Good too. Woohoo! And
So
has popped in to say hello. Woohoo! Okay, alcohol, the research fuel from Craig. That's so true. That's true. Oh, we and we knew that Stephen and Jules were probably chatting today on the podcast, so that's really great. So we've got Craigo and Jillian. Love that the captions are working as well. That's nice to know. Thank you for letting us know about that because we don't see them. So we don't see them till afterwards. So that's really great. So let me just ask you a question. So, one of the things about when are doing your storytelling and you're doing your stories, you're doing what I taught a year ago. I made this like whole little series about, being shy on camera and actually one of my videos was about storytelling because to me, storytelling is a really great way to enter video because you don't have to memorize anything. It's like
mm,
you know a story and it doesn't really matter if the person is called Martha or Martin. It doesn't matter because nobody knows the story. So you can
mm,
kind of like forget bits. As long as you remember sort of that punchline, which is like what you said, you write down what's the summary line and then you kind of, the story can morph. But
yes.
one of the things that I taught was you should tell a story and then make a point. It's like we don't want just story for story's sake. And your stories make a point. And I know you did one the other day, and I'm not going to have you say it because I want people to go to your profile and go follow it. And we'll put a link to it in the show notes where you had about a guy driving a car and, and that was like, I listened to that story and it really made me think, and you
Mm,
had a good takeaway. So here's my question. Sorry, long winded way to get to the question. Here's my question. How do you come up with your takeaways? Because that might not have been something that you originally had. So you get a story,
mm.
and then how do you make a point with it?
Well, that particular story that you're talking about is about how life whispers to our hearts and to our souls, and you've got to listen for it. So that was a relatively easy one to tie in with a message, but it was also a person noticed that my banner colours on my video at that time were black instead of the usual blue that I use, and I tend to use that if I'm going to be using that if it's a more serious story that I use.
Oh,
So
clever.
the blue ones will get kept for my jokes, my funny stories, and the black ones will be where I'm delivering perhaps a more serious or poignant life lesson or business lesson. Now, and I think that particular story, the first time I read that, heard that, I found it was quite emotive, and so I wanted to personalize it and share it. But you're right, it does have a really powerful message to it, that one. And I think with my funnier stories, then they kind of the punchline's always the bit. In fact, one of my friends tells me, "Why do you laugh at the punchline of your own joke?" And I had to admit, I'd never heard it before. So it's just, and of course, I just get such a pleasure in doing them. And I like the ones where they're fairly serious throughout, right until that last second at the end, and then they deliver that real punch. Yeah, they can't.
A real punchline, a real kick. That's like the brothers, the the
Yes.
the brothers one. And again, go to Greg's profile. We'll put the link in for the brother one. So now we got to remember too the car and the brother ones.
Yeah.
And that one, it was just like you follow along. And that one, I didn't see it coming. Like, sometimes you see a story and you kind of have a feeling you know what the punchline is, but you're just enjoying it. So it's like you go with it and it kind of like it's a break. And that's I think because you do them on Friday, I always call Friday LinkedIn light. And it's kind of like that's not when you do the serious stuff. Although sometimes there's serious things, but you don't do like heavy long things on a Friday. You kind of people are getting ready for the weekend and they might watch it on a Saturday or Sunday as well. But yeah, that one, those ones, even, I didn't see that twist, and some of yours have an amazing twist, but I like that you laugh. I like that you laugh because then I feel like you're telling me a story in person, and it shows that you're looking through that, Lenny the lens, as I love to call him. You're looking at Lenny the lens, and you're communicating with us on the other side. And if I was sitting in a pub with you, you would laugh if you told me the punchline. So
Exactly, and I think I think in some of the earlier ones, I didn't do that. I tried to keep my face straightened up, but as I've got more comfortable on camera, then I tend to react much as if I was getting it for the first time.
exactly, exactly.
My favourite ever reaction to that one, The Three Brothers, was actually from our good pal Jihan.
Oh, I don't- You have to go. You have to go watch it just to see her comment.
Oh my God, she was great. And she said, I was in tears. She was about breaking down into tears because she thought her brother, well,
Spoilers, spoilers.
they thought the story was going an entirely different direction. And then, of course, she got the punchline at the end. And I said to her, look, did you just go to the video or did you listen to or read the post first? Because each of them has a post to say, here's the message in this video. This is what I'm trying to do. And in that particular one, that was like the message was never assume, don't assume. And there she was, way ahead of me. And,
Assuming.
oh, tangent, yeah. That's fantastic. She's great, and she's really supportive of all of it. He was saying.
And we have another supportive person in the comment. Aha, Rebecca. Woohoo.
That this morning.
Another awesome lady who I met through you. So she's just another great one. Yay, this is amazing. So amazing to be near, see and hear you both laugh. Love it. Good. Yay. Yay. She's just an amazing lady. Oh my gosh, you guys are global. Rebecca Maestrin from New Zealand is on the live. It's so true. It's so true. Everybody, we don't even know what time it is there. It's like them.
I was just saying it's crazy o'clock. That she can miss the fun.
Well, sleep is overrated, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the ones where there's a twist that I didn't see coming the best, kind of Twilight Zone. It's so true, it's like that's why we all love that show. And that's why I think, stories are a part of our heritage. It can be part of, my family actually didn't really tell a lot of stories, but I grew up, yeah, I'm Jewish. So one of the things is rabbis use stories in their services all the time. I don't know if when you went to church, if your priest or minister used stories, but we remember the stories. And so that's why they would tell us the stories, because if they just told us, okay, be nice and kind to people, we'd all walk away going, what? We wouldn't remember it. But if we hear some sort of story, we remember the story. And if we like the story, then we want to pass it on to somebody else. And I don't know. I think that's
Absolutely.
that's a better
And
way.
I think for me, the purpose of the stories is about communication.
Mm.
Communication is the single strongest skill that any of us have, any of us. And communication doesn't simply encompass talking, that it involves serious listening, intent listening. And I talk about this quite often in my leadership talks that I do. And people have got a habit of listening to reply, when in actual fact, they need to be listening to understand.
Mm.
And only when they understand can they reply effectively. So for me, communication is the single biggest skill that we all have. And part of that, as I see, is verbal, part of it is listening, and part of it is body language and facial expression. And, I try as much as I can to encompass all of these things into my stories. So that I even insert unintentionally at first, but I never notice them. But I insert short pauses, and it's almost like I'm listening to me telling the story, and that pregnant pause is is just me trying to understand what the story is so far. So I'm confusing the hell out of things now, but that's
No,
that's about
that's
communication.
actually yeah, that's actually perfect, and I know that that's something that we talk about in Toastmasters for public speaking, is
Yes.
that pausing you pause for emphasis, you pause for emotion. It's like when you like, we often talk about, like, when people tell a joke, we have an expression, "Don't step on the punchline," meaning you tell the punchline and then you wait, because if people are thinking or laughing, you don't want them to stop that emotion. Give them a moment to really cement that in, and that's why you don't just keep going.
I would like you to ask me a question. I'd like you to ask me, what is the secret of a good joke?
What's the secret
I
of
mean,
a joke? What?
ask again.
What's the secret of a
Timing.
good aiming?
Timing.
Timing. Okay.
Yes. So I'm interrupting you if the time, what timing is all basically it's what I'm saying.
Good. Good. Good.
I hope Jeff got that.
It took me like 2 times in a row. I'm going, "Did I not have enough coffee this morning?"
It's not funny when I've got to explain it. That's the problem.
No, it's so true. It's so true that, like, you've gotta have those pauses, you gotta have the facial expressions, the tone of your voice has to go up and down, the pitch and the volume of your voice, all these things. Talking quietly, because that's another thing, if we talk quietly, people will lean in to hear, which is that's what a storyteller does. Like, don't you just love the line, "Once upon a time." What do you do when you hear that statement? You're just like, "Ah," you're just, "I'm ready. I'm ready. Ready to be storied. Ready to be
I,
storied."
I was invited many, many years ago to talk an annual, I don't know if you know of Standard Life, the insurance company, across in the States. They're one of the biggest insurance companies in the UK. But, I was invited to talk at an annual conference many years ago. And I was talking about selling because I'd been one of the top salespeople. I was self-employed, had my own business, but I'd generated more investment business for them than anybody else in the country that I'm here. So I was across and I was chatting, and I noticed that the audience was filled with about 1,000 people, all of whom were older and wealthier and wiser than I was ever going to be because they were lawyers and accountants and business owners and whatnot. And they just weren't listening to me
Mm.
when we talk. And I did exactly that. I simply reduced my voice until effectively I just started talking to one person at the front, and every one of them turned round and leaned forward. And I turned to the chap that invited me and held my hand out. And he said, "What's that?" I said, "I've got your entire audience in the palm of my hand because now they're hearing what I'm saying." Whereas earlier they were talking over a couple. And so that's true when you're saying it's about controlling your voice and your tone, which is what attracts and gathers or gains people's attention. And if you don't have the attention, then you won't have an audience. So and that's what I think Toastmasters is great for. It teaches it teaches people fantastic skills that will serve them well for the rest of their lives. So yeah, good. All good communication.
I agree. I agree. And I know that one of the things about, Toastmasters giving speeches and stuff, I don't do very good memorizing speeches. I just don't have the brain capacity for it. Gets me in trouble, so I just don't do it. And I don't like public readers. I really don't like going to Toastmasters and somebody sitting there reading a whole speech. It's just I'm not engaged. I get lost. And one of the things I found is if you have a repertoire of all the different stories that are important to you, then you can give a speech at any particular time because it's like we remember our own personal stories and it's very easy. And I've taught people that one of the best things you can do is kind of have your like maybe your 3 go-to stories. Maybe one is like even the foundation of your business. What like
Yeah,
what's how did your business get started? Something along that lines. And then if there's ever an opportunity where somebody's like says, "Oh, the speaker didn't make it today. Can you fill in?" You can just,
just
"Sure."
yeah.
Just jump right in. Jump right in.
And you know, when I was first working in sales with a private healthcare company, and the training was amongst the best in the world. It was fantastic. But they always work on 1 hour's preparation for every minute of presentation. And
Wow.
and that's not a bad ratio. If you want to do a decent presentation, having that, because that includes writing it, preparing it, practicing it, and rehearsing the times and so on. So it's quite a valuable ratio to bear in mind. But the kind of talking that I do these days tends to be about things that I've done most of my career. So they're just as you were saying earlier, the things I know about and the things I can relate to in that story with Ernest Shackleton, who like, how could I not talk about him? He's been my idol since I was at primary school. He's always been one of my heroes, and only 2 or 3 years ago was voted as the greatest leader of all time. That's what an accolade that is. Incredible. So yeah, but I know his story inside out. So talking about it was, second nature for me.
And literally yeah, and literally you could go and give a presentation at the drop of the hat just to start talking about Shackleton, and if memory serves me well, you even talked about the story that he tells, right? It's like that was part of your webinar, so that's kinda meta. You were talking about the story that Ernest Shackleton was sharing about,
Yeah.
you know, to his crew, and I think that's just an amazing thing that, like, and I think that we need to write these down. Like if you read a book, like I have read, I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey, 7 Habits
Yes.
of Highly Effective People or Families. I can't remember which one I read. I think I read them all. And I remember he had a couple of stories in there that really got me to think. And I just like, wow. And I wrote those down because sometimes I don't know if I'd necessarily ever go and share those stories because they're kind of too well known. And sometimes you can run into trouble. Like you show up and it's like somebody goes, "Oh gosh, not that starfish story again." We've all heard that. We hate that story because everybody's told it. So sometimes you don't want to retell those other stories that are so popular, but you can sometimes their story triggers for you that
Mm.
you can say, "Oh, what does that make me think of?" Or whatever.
But I think the great things with people like Stephen Covey, and another one of my favourites was Maya Angelou. Some of her quotes, and in fact, Jeff Young quoted one of Maya Angelou's quotes this morning on LinkedIn. People might forget what you did, they might forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Oh,
And that brings you right back to storytelling.
yep.
Storytelling is all about a feeling. And in my stories, hopefully, with my stories, that feeling is humour and laughter and sending people into the weekend on a high. But things like Stephen Covey, what he's doing is he's actually causing you to think about how you do things and why you do things and how you could improve. And how powerful is that? Again, just storytelling.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
And I'm amazed that, like, I probably read that Stephen Covey book, I'm thinking almost like 15 years ago, and I still remember the story of it's like a lighthouse and a ship and 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 it was all about paradigm and I'd never really understood what that term meant, but
Mm.
he told a story to illustrate what that term was, and here 15 years later I remember it because of the story. So that's amazing.
There's a great book called Traction by Gino Wickman, and it was an introduction to the entrepreneurial operating system, which is an American business methodology. And right in the first chapter of the book, he tells the story of a very short story of a business entrepreneur who falls over a cliff and he manages to grasp onto a vine with one hand. And he's calling for help, no one's coming, and through desperation, He looks up to the clouds and he says, "Is anybody up there?" And the voice bellows down and says, "Let go of the vine." And he thinks about it for a second. He said, "Is there anybody else up there?" Yeah. But the whole principle of that story is to try and teach business owners not to keep their business too close, to trust people and share it out and to delegate responsibilities. It's a fantastic business story and memorable for that very reason. So, yeah.
Will you put that book in the comments afterwards so that we remember that one? We
Yeah,
remember
of course.
that one. Okay, we got another one. Don't step on the punchline. Timing is key and practice makes perfect. Some candidates have fascinating stories to the question, tell me about yourself. We remember stories. And that's a fabulous thing of what Tina's just talking about, that like if you're job hunting, the best way for you to talk about, your value is to wrap it inside a story. Don't just say, I'm really good with facts and figures. It's like, I was able to come in and I took all these work orders and I was able to put them in an Excel spreadsheet that created formulas, wrap it inside a story about, this was what happened and here's the transformation. That's going to go a lot farther than just saying, I'm a whiz at
And it also conveys your personality, your USP, your uniqueness, and Tina's well, she's always right as it turns out. But how do she's saying that's a great point.
That's right. That's right. I wonder if it is a skill that can be taught to get better at free association or sub referencing. I'm not sure if we're talking about storytelling in general, but I think anybody can tell a story. And a lot of times people too also think, well, I don't have any I don't have any stories. We all have stories. We all have stories. You just have to go and ask yourself questions.
Hmm.
Why did I start my business? Or, why did I get into this career? Or why did I choose this major in university? How did I meet my spouse? What was my biggest win? What was the worst thing that ever happened to me? It's like if you just kind of go back and interview yourself, you find out that you have stories. And we tell stories all the time. Like if you go to any party, most people will, why did you like, Star Wars? You're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's a story. It's a story. So I think it's
Actually,
real.
one of the first questions I ask when I'm meeting a new prospective client for the first time is, tell me why you think you need an external consultant.
Mm.
And that's it. And every time I've asked that so far, then what I've got back is several pages of notes because they've told me a story about where they are, where they've been, where they're trying to get to, and where they think a consultant can help them to
Yep.
achieve that. So it's a fairly standard, innocuous, open question that encourages people to talk about where they are, and almost inadvertently, they're telling you their business story and their personal story about why they're in business and what their desires and ambitions are for them personally and for their business. So storytelling is very common. It's just that most people don't tie it up and call it a story. That's, but as you say, everyone's got a story.
Yep. Yep.
The
That's
answer
true.
to Jeff's question is, I think most people have it naturally, but it's definitely something that can be taught as well. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll sign off here. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And this was really fun. And I hope you picked up some good secrets today because I think there was a lot we talked about. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
What an incredible conversation that was with Craig. My biggest takeaway, stories aren't just entertainment, they're your secret weapon for building authority and connection. As Craig reminded us, people might forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So whether you're writing a book or you're promoting it, wrap up your expertise inside stories that resonate. Remember, you already have these stories. You just need to recognize them and organize them. Thanks for joining me in the vault today. And until next time, Keep making your path from author to authority as easy peasy as possible. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Easy Peasy Books, From Author to Authority. If you found value in today's episode, I'd be grateful if you could leave us a review. It helps other aspiring authors discover our podcast. To learn more about writing, publishing, and leveraging your business book, visit my website at easypeasybooks.com.